Okay, we are only 1 day into NFL free agency, and literally, you can switch off your phone for 15, 20 minutes, and the whole league looks different. This is essentially what has happened in the past 24 hours. Okay, it's nuts. The amount of moves, the amount of money spent. I saw a stat, I think is nearly up to $2 billion that have been spent on players now league wide out of 32 teams. And it's crazy because this is the league that we cover, and it just is so much better than every other league's free agency. I mean, it's just entertaining. Teams change left, right, and center. The unexpected happens. The expected happens in ways that we didn't expect. It's unreal. And we're better to start off than with Trent McDuffie. Trent McDuffie getting traded to, the Los Angeles Rams. That was blockbuster. That happened nearly a week ago now. And this was the tip of the iceberg. So obviously, Trent McDuffie not expected to get traded. You never get expected to get traded. You have trade candidates, but a guy like Trent McDuffie, who's only 3 years into his NFL career, a star cornerback, obviously had a bit of a down year in 2025, but as did the Chiefs. But this guy has been given up for a lot of draft picks, okay? A lot of draft capital that the Rams have given up for Trent McDuffie. Their way of saying, we're going all in. Matt Stafford, do or die. Let's go. And they've done it, man. It's crazy. I mean, you can see all the Rams fans here. Let's go. JSN got them shook because if you think about the NFC West, that division is unreal. You have the San Francisco 49ers, the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks, and the Los Angeles Rams. 3 teams that finished with, I think it was 13 wins or more, or 12 wins or more. That's unreal. On paper, those 3 teams would have been the top 3 seeds if they weren't in the first, in the same division. It's nuts. It's the most competitive division in the NFL. I don't care what you say. It might not look that way next year. Who knows? But the Cardinals are just the odd one out in the NFC West. And this just proves it again that the Rams signing a big name player like Trent McDuffie, that lockdown man-to-man corner to join that defense that they have over there, I just know that they are loving. I mean, Rams winning another bowl at home, because obviously the Super Bowl is in Los Angeles next year. Could we see the Rams winning Super Bowl 61 in Los Angeles? This certainly gives them a better shot. But moving swiftly on, we then had this news that Stephon Diggs got released by the New England Patriots. Again, we've made videos on these moves already from last week, but we saw this coming. I mean, with all the stuff this guy's got going off the field, and I wouldn't say a lack of production, but not the production we expected from him in 2025. Obviously, I think he put up 30-something yards in the Super Bowl, for example, and wasn't that special in the whole playoffs for the New England Patriots, leading to a Super Bowl loss. But they have decided to release Stephon Diggs, and in my opinion, this most likely means freeing up cap space for A.J. Brown. I have already spoken about this, but I see A.J. Brown leaving the Philadelphia Eagles this offseason and will most likely be joining the Patriots, but we wait to see there. So Stephon Diggs has been released from the New England Patriots. The Steelers re-signed Jonnu Smith. Not much to say. Released Jonnu Smith. Not much to say there. Obviously, he was there for a season or two. Again, a bit of a productive tight end, but essentially just not cutting it, especially with guys like Pat Frymuth there and Darnell Washington. They've got quite a few tight ends on their roster, so they didn't really need him. And then this was the big trade of last week. Obviously, you had McDuffie, but then this was the second blockbuster trade where Josh Allen has finally got a wide receiver 1. DJ Moore, obviously the Chicago Bears wide receiver 1 for the past couple years. He was a part of a loaded wide receiver room with Luther Burden and Rome Odunze and company on the Chicago Bears, and they have decided to trade him to the Buffalo Bills for a couple draft picks. But Josh Allen gets his guy. This is a big move. Josh Allen finally gets a reliable wide receiver that he can rely on. The first one he's had since the likes of Stephon Diggs left the building. Guys like Keon Coleman and Brandon Cooks, with all due respect to them, and Khalil Shakir, with all due respect to them, they're just not wide receiver ones, and their production has not, deemed them to be the right man for that position. But Josh Allen's finally got his man, DJ Moore, to the Buffalo Bills. A big move for the Buffalo Bills this offseason. Los Angeles Rams re-signing Tyler Higbee. Obviously, their staple wide receiver, tight end one, has been there since the Super Bowl in 2022. That's a good retention. This is a very good retention. Danielle Hunter extended for, I think it's a 1 year deal for $40 million and a $30 million signing bonus. Danielle Hunter was a top 3 edge rusher in the NFL in 2025, and I will die on that hill. Myles Garrett, Will Anderson, and Danielle Hunter were my top 3 edge rushers in 2025, and he's totally deserved this contract. That Texans defense was just suffering and unreal, and he's definitely warranted this contract. Obviously, he's getting into his later prime years now, Danielle Hunter, one of the veterans in a very young and promising Houston Texans defense. But who knows if they're making a run at it next year, they're going to need that, the likes of Hunter on the team. So glad they are just extending him. Obviously, we saw the Bears release Tremaine Edmonds, excuse me. And he has signed with a new team. More on that in a couple minutes. But another big one, the Raiders released Geno Smith, arguably the worst quarterback in the NFL in 2025. I'm a Geno Smith believer, okay? I do think that Geno Smith, much like another person we're going to talk about, Tua Tagovailoa, I am a Geno Smith believer, and I think that in the right position, in the right fit, he can be a very productive quarterback. Will he be a starting quarterback in 2026? I don't know. If I had to guess, possibly the Vikings would pick him up, but then again, there's guys like Kyler Murray, still to find teams. The Jets are open, the Raiders, the Vikings are open. The Falcons, I wouldn't say so. Now that Tua has signed with the Falcons for the veteran minimum, and they've got Michael Penix as their backup. More on that just now, but I don't know if Geno Smith will be a starting quarterback in 2026, but we'll wait to see. This is another big one for the Rams defense. After trading for Trent McDuffie, they have extended Cam Curl, obviously a very good safety in the NFL in 2025, part of a very strong Rams defense that is just growing. And I think bringing him back was a very, very good decision. The Dolphins released Alec Ingold. He has signed with a new team. I can't exactly remember who it was. I think it might be the Patriots, but more on that. The Patriots re-signing Tommy DeVito to a 2-year deal. Again, just a backup quarterback for the Patriots. This was very big news. Obviously, with the news that David Montgomery, obviously I didn't mention that, but David Montgomery has been traded to the Houston Texans from the Detroit Lions. And with that news, Joe Mixon has been released from the Houston Texans. Now, this is a big move because Joe Mixon is on his day, from the 2021 through to 2024 seasons, he was a staple top 10 running back in the NFL. Obviously part of that Bengals Super Bowl losing team in 2022. Very productive down in Houston in his first season, and had a mystery injury and missed the whole season in 2025. So Mixon has been released. Will he play in the NFL again? Who knows? It's very suspicious what's going on with Joe Mixon, but he has been released as a result of David Montgomery getting traded to the Texans, and with young star prospect Woody Marks, who had a very good productive rookie year last year. It's looking very like a very steep road for Mixon in a Texans uniform. Who knows what will happen with Nick Chubb as well? He's obviously still on the Texans, but I don't see him staying there, if I'm honest with you. And more news on the Texans. They've extended their tight end, Dalton Schultz. Obviously very productive the past couple of years. So he is warranted that extension. And the Bears traded for Garrett Bradbury. Obviously this came after the news that Drew Dalman was retiring at just 27 years old. That is very young to retire. Obviously he's thinking more down the line, and the fact that football has an effect on you. Drew Dalman has retired from the Bears, obviously a very productive Pro Bowl caliber center. So they have traded for a Super Bowl appearing center, Garrett Bradbury from the Patriots. Moving on, arguably the biggest news of this 2025 free agency offseason so far, the Baltimore Ravens trading for Max Crosby. Obviously, again, a video has been made about that, but he was on his way out of the Raiders organization, their best player by a mile, offense and defense included. A generational pass rusher in Max Crosby, a top 3 in the NFL without a doubt. Obviously, he's in his prime right now. The guy is putting up numbers, and joining a defense like the Ravens, who needed pass rush help so badly last season after putting up only 30 sacks during the entire season, third lowest in the NFL. They needed this guy. They needed Crosby on their roster, and they've got their guy. Look, the Ravens are building, man. We're going to see even more news now, but the Ravens are building over there. And Max Crosby, signing this, trading, going to the Ravens, getting traded from the Raiders, a very big move. That is definitely the biggest news that we've seen so far in this NFL, off season. There's been a lot of big moves, but that AFC North pass rush is just ridiculous now. I mean, just keep Joe Burrow in your prayers. I know we're going to see later on that the Bengals have signed Boye Mafe as their edge rusher, number 1 edge rusher now. But Joe Burrow has a lot of thinking to do. He's got 6 games a year where he's going to be either playing Myles Garrett, Max Crosby, or TJ Watt. So they've either got to build a very good offensive line or Joe Burrow's got to retire. But either way, moving on, the Eagles extending their defensive tackle, Jordan Davis, a standout defensive tackle, Jordan Davis, such a prominent figure in the Eagles defense, who has been there for their Super Bowl win last year and before, and 3-year, $78 million extension for a defensive tackle. Unbelievably well deserved there. I mean, look at the comments. And Howie we trust. Howie Rosen, obviously one of the best general managers, if not the best general manager in the NFL right now. Well deserved. This scared me. He's worth every penny. That's a very good move on the Eagles' part. You've got to keep a guy like that there. With a lot of their players departing, as we will see now. The Packers traded Zaire Franklin. The Colts traded Zaire Franklin to the Packers. This was also a pretty big move, and this was linked to the Rashawn Gary release, who was then eventually traded to the Dallas Cowboys this weekend. We'll get to that more on that now, but Zaire Franklin's a very good linebacker, man. Arguably a top 10 middle linebacker in the league. A veteran, he's hitting that 30-year-old mark. He's getting into his prime. He's been in his prime, but he's still meeting the mark, and the Colts, just not enough cap space. They had to free up cap space. They had to get a guy like him out of the building, and I've got a couple draft picks back from that. Then, staying on the defensive side of the ball, Khalil Mack, a walking first ballot Hall of Famer. Khalil Mack has been extended by the Chargers. Obviously, a 1-year, is it $18 million deal with the Chargers. A very productive outside linebacker. Not much needs to be said about Khalil Mack. He's had some great years on the Chargers, and they will keep him for 1 more year. Who knows if that is his retirement year, his retirement tour, but Khalil Mack is going to be at the Chargers for 2026. Obviously, we've spoken about the Rams trading for Trent McDuffie, but they have now extended his contract as well, which makes him the highest paid cornerback in NFL history. A 4-year, $124 million extension. $31 million a year for a corner is very, very steep. And I think he's very warranted of that. Obviously, you see guys like Tariq Woolen reacting. A lot of good reactions, but exactly, that's what I was just going to say. This guy says, yikes, bro, Gonzo is going to get $40 million. If a guy like Trent McDuffie's getting $31 million a year, and look, unreal cornerback, but I wouldn't say the best right now in the NFL. I think that belongs to a guy like Pat Surtain or Christian Gonzalez. Obviously, we saw Pat Surtain get his extension last year with the Broncos. Excuse me. But what is Christian Gonzalez going to get, man, when he has to get up for extension? Because it's going to be a lot. Obviously, we spoke about Alec Ingold getting released from the Dolphins. He's signed with the Los Angeles Chargers. he will join a Mike McDaniel offense, which I'm so looking forward to, man. I cannot wait to watch the Chargers play offense and how Mike McDaniel will use, these different players on offense and Justin Herbert. And this is another one. The Bills traded their cornerback Teron Johnson to the Raiders, and after the Titans and maybe the Jets, the Raiders have been incredibly busy with the amount of cap space that they have. Obviously, they're bringing in what we think will be, the number one overall pick in Fernando Mendoza. They are gearing up for the Mendoza era and looking towards their future. Obviously, getting rid of Pete Carroll, getting rid of Geno Smith. They've traded some players, left some players go. Max Crosby's left the building. It's a complete reset in Las Vegas, and this is one of very many moves that the Raiders have made. Teron Johnson, a very good cornerback for the Bills over the past couple of years. He will be on the Las Vegas Raiders in 2026. And then this was the big news yesterday. It started the first day of free agency, which obviously, if you guys don't know, free agency officially opens tomorrow. That is Wednesday, the 11th of March. But for now, all of these are deals that have been done, but will be official by tomorrow. But this is how we started off the day yesterday with the Dolphins releasing Tua Tagovailoa, and this broke the internet for a couple hours because it was expected. But like I said in the video I made about it, the amount of investment put into this player and the amount of hype coming out of college that he had, it was a very crazy, headline to see Tua get released. But not only that, the Dolphins also decided to trade arguably one of the best safeties in the NFL right now and of all time, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Minkah Fitzpatrick obviously started with the Dolphins, went to the Steelers, had some very productive years where he became arguably the best safety in the NFL. Came back to Miami first season, and they have said, just break the boats, burn the boats, get everyone out. We are restarting from scratch. They've got Devon Achane, and that's about it. Tyreek Hill's left the building. Nick Westbrook-Ikhine left the building. Bradley Chubb's left the building. Jets have traded for Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. Obviously, the Dolphins get a 2026 7th round pick. A very, very cheap price for the Jets, in my opinion. Minkah Fitzpatrick still very productive on his day. But you can just tell that the Dolphins are really going all in here. They really are saying, get rid of everyone. We're starting from scratch. And let's see how it works out, man. They've obviously traded for Malik Willis as well, which we'll get to. But just on that Zaire Franklin trade where the Colts sent Zaire Franklin to the Packers, the Packers were also busy getting rid of Rashawn Gary, a top 10 edge rusher in the NFL. They've traded him to the Dallas Cowboys, a team which is starting to take some shape on defense, in my opinion. Like I mentioned, but you've got now Rashawn Gary, you've got Kenny Clark, DeMarvion Overshown, Donovan Ezaraku. They're building a pretty good team down in Quinnen Williams, may I forget. That's starting to take some shape in Dallas. The post-Micah Parsons era is starting to look, alive and well. And then this was a very big headline as well. Obviously, you can see the numbers that this would pull just because of his name. Travis Kelce returns to the Chiefs for a 14th NFL season. I didn't see the numbers on this exactly, but Travis Kelce, a walking Hall of Fame tight end, a key cornerstone of the Chiefs' offense for the past 13 years. He will be returning to the Kansas City Chiefs for an additional season. And look, we're going to get to this as well, but they've signed Kenneth Walker as well. Excuse me. And this Chiefs offense starting to take shape again. If Mahomes can be back for week 1, the Chiefs might be back, and they might be back in business. There's obviously big news. The Chiefs, retaining Travis Kelce for an additional year, and who knows if this is his last year, but I imagine it will be. And then this was a very big money move. Obviously, Alec Pierce, one of the most coveted free agents this offseason. The Colts have paid him a lot of money. 4-year, $114 million extension. That's a lot of money for a free agent wide receiver. They clearly see something in him. Obviously, very productive alongside Michael Pittman Jr. in Indianapolis last season. they clearly think he's the right guy for it. And I don't know. I don't know if he's proved himself enough to warrant a 4-year, $114 million contract. But hey, who am I to say, people seem to be thinking the same, that, that's a lot of money. Here we go, holy overpay. Panama, random 100 mil was crazy. And look, there's the odd person, you're saying overpay, don't know ball. I don't know. I just think that is a lot of money for a guy who, I'm not saying he hasn't proved himself, but it's just, I wouldn't say Alec Pierce is a top 10 receiver in the league, if you know what I'm saying. But moving on, we then had this. The Patriots signed Draymond Jones. They're one of the defensive ends from the Ravens who just wasn't that productive last season. I think the Ravens just looked at themselves and said, I think we can let him go. The Raiders re-signed Eric Stokes. That's another good move, retaining a very productive corner. 3-year, $30 million contract, $20 million guaranteed. Again, the Raiders, we're going to see them quite a bit because they are building something very good there for the Fernando Mendoza era and a lot of moves. This was arguably the biggest move yesterday because we were wondering where Kenneth Walker was going to go. After winning the Super Bowl for the Seattle Seahawks and winning Super Bowl MVP, that warrants a very big, contract, and a 3-year, $45 million deal with 28.7 fully guaranteed. That's a lot of money for a running back, and $15 million a year. That's a very good job by Kenneth Walker and his team to get on a very big team like the Chiefs and get that amount of money. Congrats to him. Very well deserved. If you win Super Bowl MVP, you should be getting paid that money. I was very surprised that the Seahawks didn't franchise tag him, but that is what's happened nonetheless. The Buccaneers re-signing Cade Otton. Obviously, their productive tight end one. Not a very big surprise there. I did expect that to happen. Obviously, the Bucs have also made quite a few moves on day one of free agency, but they've retained their tight end. The Rams have also taken Jalen Watson from the Kansas City Chiefs. He was a free agent as well. So the two top cornerbacks for the Kansas City Chiefs, Trent McDuffie and Jalen Watson, have both, been sent or signed for the Los Angeles Rams. They are properly gearing up on defense. Obviously, that is now Trent McDuffie, Jalen Watson, Cam Curl has re-signed. And then obviously you have that linebacker core and defensive line core that the Rams have. It's very strong as well. So they are properly gearing up on defense. This, a very big move. And I'd say probably the most surprising move of the day, in my opinion, was the Panthers signing linebacker Jalen Phillips. A very, very productive linebacker in Jalen Phillips. A bit of an outside linebacker, pass rusher, whatever have you. Very, very key cornerstone to the Eagles defense this year. A 4-year, $120 million deal. That's $30 million a year for an edge rusher. And I mean, you can see the hype in Carolina. They've got their guy. Let's go. Eagles fans just fall to their knees. I can agree because that's a big guy to lose. And, look, bro is not worth that much. I think a guy like Jalen Phillips is one of those guys who's very underrated until you watch his film, because I think he's very strong. He's very good. He's very good in the way he angles himself. So I think it's a good move for the Carolina Panthers. And that's not the only move they made. Another big free agent move that we'll get to in a second. But Jalen Phillips to the Panthers, a very good move. Michael Pittman Jr. traded to the Steelers. Like we said, with Alec Pierce getting extended by, the Colts re-signing him and paying him that much money. You pay that much money to a wide receiver. Oh, excuse me. You pay that much money to a wide receiver, another one's got to go. And Michael Pittman Jr. has left the Indianapolis Colts for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I kind of like that. Michael Pittman in Pittsburgh kind of has a cool ring to it. He will be fighting DK Metcalf for that number one receiver spot. Who will be throwing the ball to them? Will it be Aaron Rodgers? Who knows? We don't know as of yet. I imagine it would either be Aaron Rodgers or Aaron Rodgers retires. I don't see him going anywhere else. But Michael Pittman in Pittsburgh got a nice ring to it. I like that. Malik Willis to the Dolphins. This was a big call that I made yesterday after Tua was released. Malik Willis has had 6 NFL starts in, what is it, 3 years now. He's drafted in 2022 to the Titans. And he's made that much of an impression in those 6 games that he has warranted a starting quarterback job, and he hasn't been a starting quarterback before. He will be the Dolphins' starting quarterback in 2026, and clearly they see something in him. When Jordan Love went down with an injury last year, Malik Willis came in and he showed what he can do. He was unreal in the couple games that he played. So I think this is a very good move. Look, him and Devon Achane could be very dangerous. Obviously, there's rumors that Malik Willis is got the potential. Rumors. People say that he has the potential to be one of the best rushing quarterbacks in the NFL. We wait to see what happens. But with him and Devon Achane in the same offense, that sort of option that they have, I like it a lot. Obviously, Steelers signing for Michael Pittman, we saw that. But the Giants, another very active team yesterday in free agency. They have signed Ravens free agent tight end Isaiah Likely. 3-year, $40 million deal. Again, it's difficult because Isaiah Likely, in my opinion, is very talented and a very productive tight end, but he's always been tight end 2 in Baltimore to Mark Andrews. And unfortunately, that's not good enough if you want to be one of the best in this league. So he said, it's been real, but I'm out of here. And he is now joining the New York Giants. And I can't remember if the New York Giants released Theo Johnson or not, but I imagine Isaiah Likely would be, the tight end 1 option in New York. The Titans, the most busiest team of free agency so far, have signed Mitchell Trubisky from the Buffalo Bills. Obviously, Mitch Trubisky has been a bit of a, complicated quarterback in the NFL ever since coming in, obviously being on the Bengals and then the Bills, and now he'll find himself on the Titans. Will he be QB 2 or 3? Because you have Cam Ward there. Obviously, he is their franchise quarterback of the future. Oh, sorry, it's very tight in here. He's their franchise quarterback of the future. So does he start? Is he QB 2 or is he QB 3 behind Will Levis? I don't know, but you've got 2 guys there, Trubisky and Will Levis, behind Cam Ward. To mentor, learn from him, whatever. They've got quarterback depth now in Tennessee, to start off this new era that they have. The Jets signing Demario Davis, a arguably Hall of Fame linebacker, in my opinion. Demario Davis, very, very productive linebacker. Arguably one of the best in the league. He was a free agent and he is signing with the New York Jets, another team that got very busy. Must be known that they shipped off Quincy Williams to the Cleveland Browns yesterday as well. Another big move. So both Williams brothers are no longer New York Jets, which is kind of crazy, but a big move there in Demario Davis. Speaking of the Steelers, they have let Kenneth Gainwell go to the Buccaneers. Now, Gainwell obviously sharing reps with Jaylen Warren in Pittsburgh for the past season. And again, you have a running back situation where you want to be number 1 running back, you've got to go elsewhere if there's another guy there. So they will look, he's now behind Bucky Irving, which makes it a bit difficult. And who's their running back to? Is it Trey White or Rashad White? Someone White. He must probably be running back 3 now. He's in a difficult situation where he's got his money, his contract, $14 million 2-year deal. But I don't see him getting a lot of reps with Bucky Irving, arguably a top 10 running back in the league. A Trey or Rashad White, I can't remember which one it is, but he's the running back too. And then now you have the Buccaneers signing Kenneth Gainwell. I don't know what's going to happen there, but staying with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they have signed veteran linebacker Alex Anzalone. Now, Anzalone has been a staple of the Detroit Lions defense for I don't know how many years now. He gets a 2-year, $17 million deal. Love it when the Bucs realize they need to sign free agents. So, again, the Bucs making moves. I'm really happy with this and Gainwell, but all signs are pointing to Mike being gone. And as we will see now, Mike Evans has left the Buccaneers. But let's stay on this one. Very good move from the Buccaneers, in my opinion. You've got him next to Leonard Fournette. That's a pretty good linebacker core, man. And Alex Anzalone, with those blonde locks, has always been a standout player for the Detroit Lions in his tenure there. So I think a good move on the Buccaneers' part. The Bears, this was a pretty big move. Obviously, Kobe Bryant, part of that smothering Seahawks defense. The dark side, is that what their nickname was? Yeah, the dark side. He was a big staple there. Obviously, very strong safety, Kobe Bryant. He is now signing with the Chicago Bears. And the Bears defense grows by the minute at this point. It is really building up the defense that they are building in Chicago. And then the Commanders signed Amik Robertson. I don't know too much about Amik Robertson because you have what's that corner in Terrion Arnold, Kobe Joseph. You have strong corners in Detroit. So I'm not sure if he was their third string. I'm not too familiar with Amik Robertson, but they've given him a 2-year, $16 million deal. I don't know. And it's funny you say everyone going to the ops. Obviously, the Commanders, who eliminated the Lions not this past season, the season before from the playoffs. So it's kind of funny. But speaking of the Lions, they have signed Cade Mays, their center, and I can't remember if. So obviously, Graham Glasgow either retired or left the Detroit Lions. Might be speaking wrongly there, but I think Graham Glasgow left the Lions. Taylor Decker, I think, has left the Lions. Someone else from the Lions offensive line. Basically, the Lions offensive line has been falling apart, and they've had to look towards other teams, towards different directions to find replacements, and they've found one, a center, Cade Mays, who will be snapping the ball to Jared Goff in 2026 and beyond. A good move, building that offensive line, obviously with Penei Sewell, who is still a very strong right tackle for the Detroit Lions. Switching to the other side of the ball, the Jets signed Joseph Asai from the Bengals. Not much to say about that. They let Jermaine Johnson go. They've now let Quincy Williams go. And they've had to, replace these guys. Look, who knows what they're going to do in the draft. There's obviously those three big linebacker, defensive lineman hybrids in Orville Reese, David Bailey, and Ruben Bain. I imagine the Jets would pick up one of those three. They've got the third pick in the draft, so I would see that happening. I wouldn't see them be very likely to go for Sonny Styles, so I'd say, in all honesty, I would see either David Bailey or Ruben Bain, as I think that who's got the second pick? Is it the... Or the Giants have the second pick. Who is the second pick? Anyway, I see the Jets going with either Orville Reese, David Bailey, or Ruben Bain. But for now, they've signed Joseph Asai from the Bengals. This was very big news yesterday. Now, why is it big news? It's an offensive lineman. Yes, it's a very good offensive lineman. Center Tyler Linderbaum, obviously, probably the best center in the NFL, maybe top 2, top 3, but was arguably the most coveted free agent this year, if not the most coveted free agent this year. He's signing with the Las Vegas Raiders. Again, I can't emphasize this enough. The Las Vegas Raiders are building. They know that their window is now. Mendoza is coming into the building. They are making moves, and they have made Tyler Linderbaum the highest paid interior offensive lineman in NFL history. That includes centers and guards. He's the highest paid. 3-year, $81 million deal with $60 million guaranteed. Well done to Tyler Linderbaum, man. That's an unreal payday, for a center who has been unbelievably productive for the Baltimore Ravens in his tenure there, obviously with, making lanes and protecting Lamar Jackson and making lanes for Derrick Henry. He's got experience with the best of the best and will now be snapping the ball to Fernando Mendoza and making lanes for Ashton Genty. It's unreal. I think the Vegas Raiders have done very well in picking up Tyler Linderbaum. Very good news for them. The Cardinals signed Tyler Algier, and I think this is a very good move because obviously they have James Conner there, who missed majority of the season with, I think it was the ACL tear. DeMarcado, I think, has been released, if I'm not mistaken. If not, he'll be running back too. But the Cardinals picking up Tyler Algier. I imagine he would be their starting running back next season. Obviously, he was in a situation again where you're second to one of the best running backs in the league in Bijan Robinson. But if you're taking snaps away from Bijan Robinson, you're doing something right. And Tyler Algier has warranted, this contract. It was a 2-year, $12.25 million deal. They've got a very good deal there, the Cardinals. A very strong running back for not as much as you would think. I think it's a good move for the Cardinals. They are unfortunately in, the division of death right now, where their hopes of making the playoffs anytime soon are not very strong because they have arguably the 3 best teams in the NFC in their division. So, going to be very interesting to see how the Cardinals do. They obviously don't have a quarterback, right now. Jacoby Brissett, their starting quarterback. Kyler Murray has been released. But I think there's potential in Arizona, and they've picked up Tyler Algier because they think that might solve some problems. Another big headline, the Saints signing free agent running back Travis Etienne. Very productive for the Jaguars in 2025. I had him in my top 10 running backs in the league, and the Saints have got a stud. But the only question now is what happens to Alvin Kamara, because the 2 talking points were that the Saints were either going to keep Kamara, draft Jeremiah Love, or sign Travis Etienne. And I don't see how, any of those can happen at the same time. This officially, I think, rules out them drafting Jeremiah Love, as I think he will be drafted by the Titans. More on that in another video. If you want to check that out, it's in either description or it will be below this video. But the Titans rebuild, I think they're picking up Jeremiah Love, which has led to the Saints signing Travis Etienne. They have 2 very good running backs now, so I don't know what's going to happen with Alvin Kamara. He's been a very productive running back for the Saints over the past couple of years, but I think Etienne is a very good signing no matter where he goes. I think he's a very good running back, so don't know what they're going to do there. I'm very interested to see the news on Alvin Kamara, what's going to happen there. Another big move, Wan'Dale Robinson signed by the Tennessee Titans. One of many moves that they made. We've made a whole video about that. Obviously, in a very crowded wide receiver room in New York that was not that productive last year. You have Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, Malik Neighbors obviously missed the whole season, but it was a very good wide receiver room, and he was a free agent and had a choice of where to go, and he settled on Tennessee, a very promising team to look out for. The Raiders, another move, Jalen Nailor, a very strong wide receiver. Obviously, Jalen Nailor was probably right. You'd say wide receiver 3 on the Vikings behind Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, but he's productive and he's got potential, and I think that's what the Raiders see. Obviously, they let Jacoby Myers walk to the Jaguars last year. They traded him to the Jacksonville Jaguars, so they have picked up another wide receiver in Jalen Nailor. And sticking with the Saints, they have signed guard David Edwards. Now, David Edwards is a very strong guard. Obviously, protecting Josh Allen for the past couple years. The Saints are building something there, and I think he will obviously be creating lanes for Travis Etienne now. Who knows if Alvin Kamara will still be there, but David Edwards, very good offensive line signing. He will be assigned. Oh, what's that left tackle that the Saints drafted last year? Oh, his name's slipping away from me. Anyway, they've got, it's on the tip of my tongue. They've got that very strong left tackle that they drafted last year in the first round of the NFL draft, and he will be lining up beside David Edwards now. So they're building a pretty strong offensive line down there in New Orleans. And then this was big news yesterday. Obviously, we had the rumors that Mike Evans was no longer going to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He has now spent, if I'm not mistaken, 13 seasons with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 11 of those seasons were 11 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, an NFL record. A Hall of Fame wide receiver will be joining the 49ers. Obviously, they are moving on from Brandon Ayuk. Juwan Jennings is most likely leaving the building. So you've got Mike Evans in wide receiver 1, and I imagine Ricky Pearsall wide receiver 2. They've also let Kendrick Bourne leave the building as well. So the Niners building on a very strong offense and bringing in a Hall of Fame receiver, a guy who is just incredibly productive and always puts up numbers in Mike Evans, is a very, very good move for them. Obviously, we saw this Kenneth Walker going to the Chiefs. They've got their guy running back. I don't know what's going to happen to Isaiah Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, but that's happened nonetheless. Jamal Dean signing for the Steelers, a very strong cornerback for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the past year. They are getting a very good player, a very good cornerback to add to that Pittsburgh defense, which is already strong. He gets a 3-year, $36 million deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This was a big one. So the Browns obviously let Devin Bush go to the Chicago Bears and immediately replace him with Quincy Williams. We'll see that later on. But this is a big signing. Again, we spoke earlier about the Bears making a run at defense, and this is clearly another addition that they desperately needed. You know, the Browns defense has always been very strong, you know, since Myles Garrett has come into the building, and Devin Bush was alongside the likes of Carson Schlesinger last season, very strong there. They've brought him in to Chicago, you know, to put up numbers, and with them releasing Tremaine Edmonds, this was bound to happen to replace him. The Falcons signing Jahan Dotson. Unfortunately, Jahan Dotson was in a very crowded receiver room. You know, that's just how it was. And with the Falcons releasing Darnell Mooney last week, they needed, you know, another receiver below Drake London. But, you know, you had a situation in Philadelphia where you have A.J. Brown as your wide receiver 1. You have Heisman winner Devontae Smith as your wide receiver 2. You've unfortunately got to look elsewhere if you want to be a productive receiver. And he has gone to the Falcons. The Falcons making moves as well, bringing in a guy like Jahan Dotson. I like the move as very much so. Browns signing guard Zion Johnson. Pretty sure he was a first-round draft pick in 2022. I might be mistaken, but he was a first-round draft pick to the Chargers in 2022. And he was a free agent. He is now going to the Cleveland Browns, who, get this, their entire offensive line is free agents this offseason. So they need to build on that. And they've started here. They've started big with Zion Johnson, a former first-round draft pick, 3-year, $49 million deal. He gets his bag. Congrats to him. This was a very big move. This is arguably, I think, the biggest move for the Titans in their very crowded offseason so far. Veteran defensive tackle John Franklin Myers signs a 3-year, $63 million deal with the Tennessee Titans. Part of that Orange Rush Broncos defense, the staple of that defensive line, arguably. He is joining the Tennessee Titans, who are getting very, very stacked. Their defensive line looking very strong. Obviously, him and Jermaine Johnson are going to be next to each other. And if they do go the route of either Alvaro Reese, David Bailey, or Ruben Bain in the NFL draft instead of Jeremiah Love, that defense is going to be smothering. OMG, we are actually cooking now. Titans are cooking something good. Titans out here making the best free agent period ever for the team. I agree. They are getting busy, and I like it, what they're doing in Tennessee. This is how you start a new era with new logo, new kits, new stadium. I like it a lot. Charlie Kolar signing with the Chargers, tight end 3 on the Ravens. Not much to say there. I couldn't tell you that much about Charlie Kolar, if I'm honest with you. But this I can tell you a lot about. Tremaine Edmonds to the Giants. A very strong, very productive linebacker for the Chicago Bears for the past couple of years. He was released and people were wondering where he was going to go. You know, he was very coveted after getting released by the Chicago Bears, who replaced him with Devin Bush. Signing with the Giants. Now, does this mean Sonny Styles is out of the picture? I don't know, because if you look at most mock drafts so far, the Giants are poised to pick linebacker from Ohio State, Sonny Styles, with the 5th overall pick. Getting a guy like Tremaine Edmonds now in the building, will that change that? I don't know. I know that Sonny Styles is more of an outside linebacker, hybrid, a freak athlete, but Tremaine Edmonds is a proven NFL veteran linebacker. So, very good move for the Giants part. Obviously, here we go. This is the Mike Evans graphic of him in a 49ers uniform. Again, you know, look at this. Mike Evans through the years, a Buccaneer through and through. There's rumors that he will, you know, obviously sign a retirement contract with the Buccaneers when all is all said and done. Another move for the Titans, Cordell Flott, quarterback from the Giants. Another good addition to that defense. Brian Cook signing with the Bengals. A strong safety for the Chiefs, during their Super Bowl years. Obviously a Super Bowl champion. He is back in Cincinnati. It's good. The Bengals need to work on this defense, and they're getting busy early. I like it. Who knows what's going to happen with Trey Hendrickson, but sorry, that's just what came to my head there. But Bengals getting busy. Titans, another move, Alontae Taylor. He was a free agent quarterback from the Saints. Good move. Again, I have nothing else to say about the Titans. I've made a whole video about this. They are strong. Robert Saleh, Brian Daboll, Gus Bradley, they have all come into the building and are getting busy with free agency so far. I like it a lot. J.K. Dobbins re-signed by the Broncos. Interesting move. I think, obviously he missed a lot of time during 2025 with injury. But he's been retained by the Denver Broncos. And we'll wait to see if that's a good move or not. But for now, he is going to be sharing reps with RJ Harvey in Denver next year. The Commanders re-signing Marcus Mariota. Not much to say there. Backup quarterback. Obviously a former Heisman Trophy winner. They are keeping their guy. This was a big move. Odafe Oweh, pass rusher from the Chargers. Obviously he got traded to the Chargers last year from the Ravens, but he is signing with the Commanders alongside the likes of Bobby Wagner and Von Miller and shout out my guy TJ. He's probably waiting in the wings there for his opportunity, and I know he will get it. TJ Younger, he's there as well, but for now, Odafe Oweh is getting signed by the Commanders. A 4-year, $100 million deal. Well done to Odafe Oweh getting his money. I think very productive defensive end. Congrats to him. That's $25 million a year. That is, yes, got that quarterback money. He is getting that money. That's $100 million for 4 years. They've got their guy. He's going to be their staple defensive end for the next couple years. Congrats to Odafe Oweh. And another big signing. Boye Mafe, key to that Seahawks dark side defense in 2025. He's signing with the Cincinnati Bengals. They've found their replacement for Trey Hendrickson. And this is a big move. I think they needed that prominent edge rusher, and I think he's ready. 3-year, $60 million deal. That's $20 million a year. You base it off a guy like Odafe Oweh, $25 million a year. Boye Mafe getting $20 million a year. That's very good for him. I think congrats to him. He got his payday. Seahawks defense, a lot of guys moving on, but they are getting paid their dues, and rightly so. Excuse me. Max Crosby, we saw this already. Baltimore Raven, still crazy to think. Kenneth Walker, Kansas City Chief, and here we go. Tua Tagovailoa signed by the Atlanta Falcons. He signed for the veteran minimum, and you think about Tua goes from a $240 million odd contract with the Dolphins, who are now paying $99.2 million in dead cap, to a veteran minimum, which is 1 point something million, to possibly be a backup quarterback is a very hard pill to swallow. He's going to be fighting Michael Penix for that starting job now. 2 left-handed short quarterbacks in Atlanta is a crazy move, but hey, stranger things have happened. We'll see what happens there. This is a big move again for the Commanders, re-signing Laremy Tunsil to a 2-year, $60 million extension. A very strong left tackle, man. Very, very strong left tackle. They obviously picked him up from the Texans either last year or the year before. I think it was last year. Very productive. Obviously, the whole Commanders team had a bit of an off-season, a down season rather, in 2025, but he has been extended. That's a good move, get that left tackle signed, to protect a guy like Jaden Daniels, who's very nimble. Very good move on the Commanders front. Kwity Paye signs with the Raiders. Another big move for the Raiders. Again, you're going to hear Raiders and Titans, Giants and Jets. Those are the 4 teams that are going to be making a lot of moves, especially the Titans and the Raiders with the amount of cap space and, draft capital that they have now. They have signed Kwity Paye from the Colts, obviously free agent from the Colts over there. This was pretty big news, and we haven't had an update on it, but the Broncos releasing Dre Greenlaw. Now, I don't know, because Obviously, Dre Greenlaw has spent 1 year with the Denver Broncos. He spent the past season, obviously, missed quite a bit of time to injury, but Dre Greenlaw is a very strong linebacker, and he was, the duo with Fred Warner on the 49ers for a couple of years and got to a Super Bowl. And he then signed with the Broncos last year and became part of that Orange Rush defense and has not really been that productive since. I still think he's a very strong linebacker, but he's been released, and I think that is just to sort of free up cap space, obviously, but he's no longer a Denver Bronco. Crazy news that. Quay Walker to the Raiders as well. Another very big move. These are big moves that the Raiders are signing. You just see the top free agents on a list and it says Raiders, Raiders, Titans, Raiders, Titans, Titans, Raiders. It's very good moves that these two teams are making. Now, this is a move that I thought was so well deserved and so warranted, because Rashid Shaheed won the Seattle Seahawks a lot of games last year. A very productive special teamer, a very strong wide receiver. Well done, Rashid Shaheed. Getting paid, I can't remember, I think it's 3 years. I don't know the exact money, but he's got paid his dues with the amount of returning jobs he did, on special teams, the amount of productivity he had in half a season with the Seahawks, taking them to a Super Bowl victory. Congrats to Rashid Shaheed, a very well-deserved payday in Seattle. Panthers signing Kenny Pickett. He will be the backup quarterback, either him or Andy Dalton, to Bryce Young. Obviously spent this past season in Las Vegas behind Geno Smith. But I don't see Kenny Pickett getting that starting job over Bryce Young. But again, stranger things have happened. He could be the next Sam Darnold, for all we know. The Texans have signed Reed Blankenship. This kind of hurt me because, along with Cooper DeJean, Reed Blankenship made up the exciting whites on the Philadelphia Eagles. One of the funnest duos to watch. Kind of crazy. The Texans have arguably broken up the two best duos in the NFL. The two most memed duos, at least. You have Sonic and Knuckles on the Lions with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. The Texans bring David Montgomery into the building, and now the exciting whites with DeJean and Blankenship. They've now brought Blankenship into their building. So, very strong safety as well. He's been very productive alongside the Eagles defense for the past 2 years or so. Congrats to Reed Blankenship, man. I think Super Bowl champion with the Eagles. He's going to bring a lot of presence to that Texas defense, which is already a very, very big presence. The Cardinals signing Kendrick Bourne. We saw that from the 49ers going to a divisional rival. That receiver room is just becoming a bit crowded, and I saw him on his way out with Mike Evans, Ricky Pearsall, and I imagine they will get another wide receiver as well. Kendrick Bourne saw his way out. This was probably my favorite move of the day yesterday. The Carolina Panthers signing Devin Lloyd. After signing Jalen Phillips, they brought in arguably the best middle linebacker of the year last year, in my opinion, in Devin Lloyd. Very, very productive year last year. Maybe not the best, but one of the best, definitely in 2025. And I think they've got a real stud linebacker there in Devin Lloyd. I think it's a great move by the Carolina Panthers front office. He'll be lining up next to Jalen Phillips as well. Just a great move. Another one with someone leaving Carolina, Rico Dowdle, signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Congratulations to Rico Dowdle, because he started the year, last year as running back two to Chuba Hubbard, and obviously when Chuba Hubbard got injured, he came in and my goodness was he productive. Obviously reached 1,000 rushing yards. Unreal season from Rico Dowdle, and deserved, to go and get a starting job somewhere. He, I imagine, will be the starting running back in Pittsburgh. Obviously, Jalen Warren is still there, but I see Rico Dowdle being the starting running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers next year, alongside Aaron Rodgers. Will he be there? Who will he not? I don't know, but if it's Aaron Rodgers or Kyler Murray or Geno Smith, whatever, the running back is secure in Pittsburgh, and Rico Dowdle, I think that's a very good move on their part. Alohi Gilman, another departure for the Baltimore Ravens. They've signed Max Crosby, traded for Max Crosby, and they've had to let a lot of people go. Gilman will be on his way to the Kansas City Chiefs. Big addition for them. And another Chiefs signing, Tyquan Thornton, also re-signing with the Kansas City Chiefs. That wide receiver room is very stacked. Obviously, you have Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, who I think will be on his way out, Xavier Worthy. Who else is there? Is Juju Smith-Schuster still there? Or was he on the Patriots? I can't even remember. But they've got a strong receiver room, and Tyquan Thornton is also staying there. 2-year, $11 million deal. Congrats to him. And we finish it off with, so far, this is just day 1, remember. We'll have a day 2 video coming soon. The Patriots signing Elijah Vera Tucker, probably one of the most coveted free agent guards this season. Very strong offensive lineman for the Jets over the past, few seasons. They've got their guy who will line up next to, look, obviously the Patriots made it to the Super Bowl, okay? They had Garrett Bradbury there, Jared Wilson, Will Campbell, obviously very controversial at left tackle. I still believe in Will Campbell, but for now they are picking up Elijah Vera Tucker to be that big man on that offensive line, and I think it's a very good move. Obviously, Garrett Bradbury is on his way out. They're going to need Jared Wilson to step up at center, I imagine, but for right now, they'll have Elijah Vera Tucker at guard on the inside. And the Jets losing players, meaning they're going to rebuild, I imagine. But that is pretty much it for day 1 of free agency. Obviously, so far, this is the biggest move, I imagine, this offseason is Max Crosby to the Ravens, Trent McDuffie to the Rams, Tua getting released. A lot went down yesterday in day 1 of free agency, and thanks for sticking around for this hour. Again, this league is just amazing. It is really amazing to watch how this league just changes overnight, and the NFL offseason free agency is unmatched, and you just love to see it. Congrats to all the guys getting paid. I think a lot of guys getting a lot of, deserved contracts and paydays, are very well done to them. But we'll wait for day 2. As I'm making this video, there are probably more contracts being made and more, moves being done. So congrats to all the guys getting paid, and good luck to all the guys on their new teams. Look out for teams like the Raiders, Titans, Jets, and Giants, obviously making their big moves before the NFL draft next month. But for now, I appreciate you guys for being here. Hope you guys do enjoy watching these moves that happen during this off season, and I will see you in the next one, most probably in the next couple of days, with a day 2 reaction to free agency. But it will just depend on the amount of moves. We will do a full free agency rundown at the end of it. But for now, don't forget to follow the socials, like the podcast, like the video, subscribe if you haven't already. Do good, be great, and follow God, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for being here.